Subscribe because it's free.
The Zorvax Dominion had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. Their fleets had crushed entire civilizations. Their armies had broken the wills of empires. And their name alone was enough to send lesser species into surrender. They did not ask for peace. They did not negotiate. They conquered. For centuries, they expanded without resistance, steamrolling every species in their path. Some tried to fight. Some tried to plead. None of it mattered. The Zorvax had perfected war. Their technology was unmatched. Their soldiers, bred for combat, felt no fear. Their empire stretched across thousands of worlds, and not once had they suffered a true defeat. So when their scouts discovered a small, unremarkable blue planet orbiting a yellow star, they barely paid it any attention. The species that inhabited it, humans as they called themselves, were primitive by galactic standards. No interstellar colonies, no hyperdrives, no advanced energy weapons. Just a single world filled with carbon-based life forms that had barely clawed their way into space. An easy conquest. Another world to add to the Dominion's ever-growing list. The invasion began with precision. Zorvax warships dropped from orbit, their presence blocking out the sky. Plasma bombardment struck key cities, disrupting infrastructure and communications. Their soldiers deployed in flawless formation, moving with ruthless efficiency. The humans resisted. Of course. They always did. Every species did it first. It was amusing. They fought with projectile weapons, crude explosives, outdated aircraft. The first few engagements were effortless. Entire military bases were wiped out in seconds. Resistance groups were annihilated before they could even mount a proper defense. The Zorvax High Command was pleased. Another swift victory. Another species broken. But then something happened. The humans did not stop fighting. Even as their cities burned, even as their armies fell, they did not surrender. No desperate transmissions begging for mercy. No broken leaders groveling for peace. Just silence and then more attacks. Their forces scattered, refusing to engage in open battle. They struck from the shadows, attacking supply lines, ambushing patrols. They turned their ruined cities into traps, rigging entire streets with explosives. The Zorvax were used to direct confrontations, overwhelming their enemies with superior firepower. But humans didn't fight like that. And worse, they adapted. Every battle, they changed their tactics. Every loss, they came back stronger. They studied their enemy, learned their weaknesses. The Dominion had faced rebellions before, but none like this. Other species would falter, their morale shattered once they realized they could not win. But the humans, they became something else. At first, the Zorvax commanders dismissed it as desperation, but then the reports started coming in. A Zorvax forward base wiped out overnight. No alarms triggered. No survivors. The bodies found later, mutilated, weapons missing, equipment repurposed. Supply ships destroyed mid-flight. Not by advanced weaponry, but by human pilots ramming them with their own vessels, sacrificing themselves to cripple the invaders. A captured human soldier, half his body burned from plasma fire, still managed to kill 3 Zorvax guard with nothing but a sharpened piece of metal before he died. This wasn't a war of conquest anymore. It was turning into something else. Something the Dominion had never faced before. Fear. The Zorvax did not know fear. Their soldiers were engineered for battle, devoid of hesitation. Their empire had never been threatened. But now, their troops hesitated before venturing into human-controlled zones. Their warlords grew uneasy as more and more of their forces went missing without a trace. Something was different about this species. Something the Zorvax could not understand. They should have broken. They should have surrendered. But humans don't break. They don't surrender. And the Zorvax were about to learn that the hard way. The Dominion had expected humanity to crumble. Instead, they adapted. The first sign that something was wrong came from the outposts. Zorvax squads stationed in occupied human cities started disappearing. Not in battle. Not in open conflict. They simply stopped reporting. Patrols sent to investigate found nothing. No bodies. No signs of struggle. It was as if the ground had swallowed them whole. Then the survivors started appearing. Zorvax warriors, trained from birth to feel no fear, were found wandering the ruins of their own garrisons, disarmed, wounded, and broken, their minds shattered, their voices reduced to incoherent babbling. One managed to speak a single phrase before his body went into shock. "They're hunting us." The Zorvax had seen insurgencies before, but nothing like this. They controlled the skies. They controlled the technology. They controlled the numbers. None of it mattered. Humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting to destroy. Dominion war councils analyzed the reports, but conclusions made no sense. The humans were turning every battlefield into a death trap. They had no superior technology, yet they were winning skirmishes. They had no centralized leadership, yet their attacks were precise. The Dominion had faced resistance before, but this wasn't resistance. This was extermination. Every captured human refused to speak. No pleas, no negotiations, nothing. One Zorvax scientist suggested using neural probes to extract information. The procedure had worked on thousands of other species. But the moment the first test subject was connected, something happened. The human bit through his own tongue, choking on his own blood just to keep the Zorvax from learning anything. This was not war. This was something far worse. The next wave of Dominion forces moved in, fully armed, determined to wipe out the human infestation. But this time, the humans were ready. The Zorvax had technology. The humans had adaptation. They modified stolen Zorvax weapons, repurposed their energy cells, used their own technology against them. Soldiers wearing scavenged Dominion armor infiltrated bases, killing from within. Communications were intercepted, supply lines poisoned, entire regiments left stranded and cut off from command. Zorvax medics discovered another terrifying truth. Humans didn't die the way other species did. A wounded human should have succumbed to injuries. Instead, they fought through pain that would have incapacitated even the strongest Zorvax warriors. Severed limbs? They still fought. Internal bleeding? They still fought. Even dead, they were a problem. Zorvax patrols were lured into areas filled with corpses, only to find themselves surrounded by explosives. The Dominion's own scanners had failed to detect the bodies were rigged to detonate. Humans had turned their own dead into weapons. That was when the whisper started spreading among the ranks. A name, a curse, a warning, the unbreakable. Entire Zorvax platoons refused to deploy without backup. Officers reported soldiers hesitating before stepping into human-occupied zones. Orders were questioned, strategies unraveled. The Dominion had crushed civilizations. They had burned entire species out of existence. But this time, something was different. The humans weren't afraid of them. The Zorvax knew how to deal with submission, how to control broken populations. But how do you fight something that doesn't break? How do you conquer something that refuses to kneel? Then came the recordings. Intercepted transmissions from the battlefield. They weren't distress calls. They weren't pleas for help. They were laughter. Human soldiers surrounded, outgunned, bleeding, dying, laughing. A deep guttural sound that sent a chill through every Zorvax that heard it. They had thought themselves the galaxy's greatest warriors. But they had made a mistake. They had challenged the wrong species. The Zorvax Dominion had never known true defeat. Until now, humanity had stopped retreating, stopped fighting defensively. The war had shifted, and the Zorvax were no longer the hunters. They were the hunted. It started with a single counteroffensive. What should have been a minor skirmish turned into a slaughter. The humans had learned. They had studied every Zorvax tactic, every formation, every weakness. And now, they were using that knowledge to tear the Dominion apart from the inside out. The first real victory came on the colony world of HFY. The Zorvax had held the planet for months, using it as a staging ground. Their fleet orbited above, their forces fortified below. The planet was impenetrable, unconquerable, until it wasn't. The Zorvax command lost contact with the outer defenses first, then the supply depots, then the barracks. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. Their ships in orbit detected no massive human fleet, no planetary bombardment. The humans had already been inside the fortress walls. Captured Zorvax weapons turned against them, their own defenses used to cut them down. One by one, Entire garrisons went silent. Dominion commanders scrambled to regroup, but it didn't matter. Within 12 hours, the planet had fallen. Not a single human prisoner was taken. The victory sent a shock wave through the Dominion. This wasn't just rebellion anymore. This wasn't some temporary insurgency. This was a systematic dismantling of their empire. Then came the disappearances. Entire Zorvax fleets wiped from existence. Warships found adrift, their crews missing. No signs of battle. No distress calls. Just emptiness. The Dominion grew desperate. For the first time in their history, they began retreating, falling back to their core systems. If the humans could not be stopped, they would be contained. They enacted Protocol Black, total planetary lockdowns. No travel, no communications, no risks. Every occupied human world was quarantined. It didn't matter. The humans had learned how to fight in the shadows. The attacks never came from the front. They came from within. Zorvax officers found their security systems compromised, their strongest outposts sabotaged, their most advanced weapons failing at critical moments. Humanity had cracked the code. They had infiltrated Zorvax networks, disrupted their supply chains, turned their own technology against them. Dominion Command made one last attempt to halt the tide, a peace offering, a desperate plea. They sent emissaries under a banner truce, their warlords ready to negotiate, to offer humanity a place within the Dominion, to end the bloodshed before it was too late. The humans gave their answer, a single transmission. No negotiations, no surrender, no mercy. The Dominion had burned their cities, enslaved their people, and expected forgiveness. Humanity had not forgotten, and they never forgive. The final assault came without warning. Human fleets, reverse engineered from stolen Zorvax technology, emerged from slip space. Planets that had once been part of the Dominion found themselves under siege. But this wasn't invasion. This was eradication. The Zorvax homeworld, an unassailable fortress for millennia, became a graveyard. Their defenses, designed to withstand anything, crumbled in hours. Dominion warlords, who had once ruled the galaxy without fear, now cowered in their bunkers, whispering the name of their executioners. The humans, the unbreakable. And then, just like that, the war was over. The Dominion, the oldest and most powerful empire in the known galaxy, was gone, erased. The war was over. The Zorvax Dominion, the unchallenged rulers of the stars, the conquerors of 1,000 civilizations, was gone. The once mighty fleets that had darkened the skies were reduced to wreckage, their ships floating as silent tombs in the void. Their towering citadels, built over millennia to house an empire, lay in ruins. The Dominion had spent ages perfecting war, refining the art of conquest. But against humanity, none of it had mattered. Survivors, what few remained, fled to the darkest corners of the galaxy, terrified of what they had unleashed. The name Zorvax, once spoken with fear and reverence, was now nothing more than a whisper in the void, a reminder of a species that had challenged a wrong enemy. But humanity was not celebrating. This had never been about conquest, never about ruling the stars. There were no victory parades, no declarations of dominion over the remains of the empire they had crushed. This had been about justice, about revenge. And now, with their vengeance complete, the question remained, what next? Humanity had changed. The war had forced them to evolve into something else, something that even they did not fully recognize. Gone were the days of peace, of slow exploration, of cautious diplomacy. The galaxy had taught them a lesson, one paid for in blood. Mercy is a weakness. Kindness is an invitation for conquest. And trust? Trust is a death sentence. The galaxy, once so certain of humanity's insignificance, now feared them. The species they had once ignored, dismissed as primitive and weak, had torn apart the most powerful empire in existence. The surviving galactic nations, those who had once lived in terror under the Dominion's rule, hesitated. Would humanity strike again? Would they seek to claim what they had destroyed? They sent envoys, desperate to understand what humanity would do next, to gauge their intentions, to survive. But no answer came. Humanity did not expand, did not claim territory, did not demand tribute. They simply watched. They had won, and now they waited. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy stood still, because the truth had become painfully clear to every species, every empire, every world that looked upon the ruins of the Zorvak's dominion and understood what had happened. Humanity had never sought to rule. But if anyone ever came for them again, if any species dared to repeat the Dominion's mistake, there would be no negotiations, no warnings, no mercy, only silence, and the name of the species that would haunt the stars forever. Humans.